مذهلة. من أينما ذهبنا نجد أن فرص العمل متوفرة، وهذه تؤثر على الكثير من النتائج. لا يتحدث عن ذلك. هو قال يوم أمس هو سيفعل ما سيحتاجون إلى عمله، وهو سيفعل ما هو محتاج إلى عمله في بعض المناطق الانتخابية الديمقراطية، أو ينفقون الكثير من الوقت أو قليل من الوقت من أجل أن يتواصلوا. وأحيانا نحن علينا أن نعطي الناخبين الفرصة، وحسب علمي فإن الناخبين ينتظرون منا التصرف. طبعا كثيرون سمعوا من الديمقراطيين بأنهم سيبدأون بإجراءات عزل الرئيس، لكن نحن أيضا هناك من يتحدث ليس عن ذلك بل عن الرعاية الصحية، عن الاقتصاد، عن الأمن القومي، وهم سعداء جدا بسياسات الرئيس. هو الرئيس يريد لنا كلنا أن نراقب إنجازاته. كوريا الشمالية الآن عادت إلى الركب، هو يفرض عقوبات على إيران، وكثيرون قد لا يضعون أمريكا أولا لكنهم لا يريدون مواقف اعتذارية عن أمريكا أيضا. سنتحدث إلى المحامين حول هذه القضية، لكن لو كانت هذه أولى القضايا المطروحة في البرلمان علينا أن نسأل الديمقراطيين إلى أي مدى أنتم مستعدون للعمل مع الرئيس. هذا أمر متروك لهم أيضا. كيف يمكن أن تتعاملوا مع توحيد المواقف الوطنية؟ طبعا لأسباب كثيرة لا أفهمهم ينصرفون عن التعاون مع الرئيس، لكن الرئيس قبل أسبوعين وقع قانونا تاريخيا موحدا لمواقف الحزبين، وأيضا يقتضي هذا القانون أن هذا القانون مرر في مجلس الشيوخ بنسبة 98% ضد 1. هذا يعني أن كل الديمقراطيين وقعوا وصادقوا عليه. إذن ممكن أن نعمل مع الديمقراطيين. الرئيس ربما لديه إثبات من أن مجلس الشيوخ سيبقى، لا أدري كيف أعبر، هو لديه الآن من أعضاء مجلس الشيوخ ما هو أكثر، ولكن إذا ما فاز الديمقراطيون في أغلبية مجلس النواب فإن الأعضاء الديمقراطيين عليهم أن يسألوا أنفسهم ماذا طلب مني الذين صوتوا لي؟ هل جئت إلى البرلمان لكي أعوق عمل الرئيس فقط؟ ماذا تقصد؟ تم انتقاده في وسائل الإعلام. لا أجب عن سؤالك لأنه ليس سؤالا جيدا. أنا أسألك أنت. لقد تم الإطراء عليه أيضا لإثارة الانتباه حول قضية أن الناس يتدفقون على هذه البلاد، يخترقون الحدود بالآلاف كل يوم. لكن ما هو مهم للكثير من الناس أنك عندما تضيء على قضية معينة ويرى الناس أهميتها يبدأون بالقول أن ربما أن أمن الحدود هو من أمن البلاد الوطني. هذا ما واجهه الرئيس أوباما في 2014 لأن الكونغرس أخفق في العمل عند ذاك، وهو يخفق الآن. والكونغرس مسؤول إلى حد كبير حول ما حصل بسبب سياسة الهجرة الأمريكية وبقائها على حالها. الرئيس كان محقا في تسليط الضوء على هذه القضية لأن الناس بدأوا يرون ما يحدث. المكسيك تحاول أن توفر اللجوء والملاذ الآمن لهؤلاء الذين يأتون من بلدان المثلث الشمالي وأمريكا الوسطى. بعضهم يريدون أو يقولون أنهم يريدون المجيء إلى أمريكا. نحن نريد أن نستمر في هذا الأمور. وطبعا حقيقة أننا لا نتحدث عن بعض الأمور لا يعني أننا نسيناها. لها. هناك التركيز الكبير من جانب وسائل الإعلام، لكن الرئيس يحاول ويجعل الأمور تحصل ويتصدى لها بكل اقتدار، وهو أمر تاريخي. ومع ذلك وبعد عامين وبعد أن حقق الكثير من التقدم، نحن الآن نختار أعضاء لمجلس الشيوخ. ولو استمرت الأمور كما يقول سكوت، لكن جو دونلي في إنديانا وهو مكان الرئيس أوباما ذهب إلى هناك وشن حملة انتخابية معه لصالحه، لكن لم تتحقق نتيجة. أنتم دائما تسألونني عن أشياء بكل احترام. دعونا نركز على ما حدث هذه الليلة، وهي أن الناخبين استجابوا، وأنا أحترم رغبة الناخب الأمريكي. هذا اليوم هو اليوم الأول من حملة 2020. يا إلهي، دعونا نرتاح قليلا. أحد الأمور التي يمكن أن أقولها عن الرئيس وعن الطرق الكثير التي تجعلني فخورا للعمل معه وفخورا بكونه رئيسا، هو أنه عندما يتلقى المشورة من فريقه السياسي بأن الحزب الحاكم دائما يخسر أغلبية مجلس النواب، ولكن الرئيس جورج دبليو بوش انتخب مرتين، كلينتون انتخب مرتين، وأوباما انتخب مرتين. هو يقول: لا أريد أن أسمع هذا الكلام، أريد أن أركز على أنني أنا الرئيس ونائب الرئيس. ممكن أن نستطيع الإبقاء على مجلس الشيوخ لكي يعملوا من أجل هذه الأجندة ومن أجل الرخاء والاقتصاد. لم يكن كما هو عليه الآن من التركيز. دائما يصحوا من الصباح المبكر منطلقا في حملة دعائية، وما حققه من نتائج كان مذهلا. بالتأكيد آمل أن لا يكون الأمر كذلك. آمل أنهم كلهم حققوا النتائج التي يريدونها. هذا نظام ديمقراطي رائع، لا حاجة لنا بأن نرد بهذه الطريقة. أنا متأكد من أن الرئيس سيتولى الرد، لكن إذا كنتم تطلعون إلى العام 2020 أنا منذهلة حقيقة للطريقة التي بعضهم خسر فيها في 2016 ثم في 2020. أين 2017؟ أين 2018؟ أين 2019؟ هذا الرئيس يتحدث عن 2016 عندما ذهب إلى بعض الأماكن. بعضكم ذهب معه وشاهد الجمهور هم نفسهم كما كانوا، الأعداد هي نفسها، الحماسة نفسها. أعتقد أن في العام 2016 كان الجمهور هناك لأنه كان يحمل أملا، واليوم كانوا هناك لأنهم يشعرون بالامتنان.
إذن كان هذا بعض الأسئلة التي وجهت لمستشارة الرئيس الأمريكي دونالد.
Well, his message for 2020 are his accomplishments as president. That is the best message that he'll have. What did I do in office? It's not a message, it's a mission. And I think one big lesson, you just can't get around it, is that he made a difference in so many of these races. You look at Ron DeSantis in Florida, has been trailing in most of the polls, and the president helped him in the primary, certainly. I think Ron DeSantis had been down 15 points or so against a very qualified Republican opponent in that primary. And then, of course, the president going down there twice last week. The vice president been down there. Others have been down there. I think that the president made competitive some of these races. He had asked Rick Scott to run for that Senate seat a very long time ago, and Rick Scott, I think, has been a tremendous governor.
So what's the lesson then?
Well, the lesson is that there are many lessons, but the lesson is also that substance, not sound bites, matter. That just because people say things a million times doesn't make it true, and that people really do focus on policy, not personalities, and they focus on principles, not politics. So that's a great lesson, and I'm very proud of the voters for actually focusing on policy. But I think the president really made competitive so many of these Senate seats. We're up against 43 retirements, and we're up against, which included the Speaker of the House. And that's really difficult for us to keep the House under those circumstances, even though Speaker Ryan is out there raising money and campaigning for candidates as well. So when you think about digging out of a hole like that from the beginning, 43 retirements, and the trends, the historical trends against you, and the president emerges with gains in the Senate and some key governor's races having been won, not all, but some, it's pretty remarkable. I think it's a testament to him showing up.
What did the president mean about having a softer tone tonight?
Was the president, how did the president react to the news as the returns came in tonight? What was his mood?
Well, he's been there in the East Wing in the residence all night, and still is, and still is there watching the returns. He's been working the phones. He's been getting the returns from his war room, from a number of the people here working on that, talking to his senior team. His family is around him as well, and some friends. And he's been watching with great attention, and he will remember when they're going by the counties, or he'll look at the part of the state and say, we were just there, or I remember that in 2016, or isn't that where we went a couple weeks ago? And Andy Barr race early on, as I know all of you were watching it too, was a really big marker for the night, a great bellwether, because that is a race that the president specifically went in for 2 Saturdays ago. There was no senator or governor's race at the top of the ticket. It was specifically for Andy Barr in Kentucky. And the president, he's a game day player, but he also, and he's always, he's optimistically cautious, different than cautiously optimistic. And he's the last one to say, look who just won, until they call the race, because as a great deal maker throughout his career, he knows you can walk away from the table and lose the deal at the last minute. So he always waits until the votes are called, until the race is called, watching all of your networks and looking online. But pretty happy tonight with the results. Got the vice president and the second lady next to him as well, but the president and first lady have been there basically all night. I started seeing them around 8:15, and they're still there.
What did he say to his supporters, Kellyanne, when he addressed them? Did he give a speech tonight? Did he
No, there's no speech. It's just a time to watch the returns, have people.
What was his
message? Oh, of course, we love to eat.
What did he mean about having a softer tone? He said that was a regret yesterday, that he wished he had a softer tone.
Well, he said he'd like to have a softer tone, but he really couldn't. It is necessary to have some sharp elbows once in a while, my words now, because of the way he's been treated. And a lot of the news, true news, has been ignored in favor of opinion and punditry and an obsession with collusion, delusions, and palace intrigue, and things that don't matter, but things that don't matter to the voters. Definitely, we just saw that yet again. I mean, you can still cover it if you want, but it turns out the voters really are focused on the issues. All the star power in Georgia and Florida, former presidents and former vice presidents and would-be presidents, so they think campaigning with these folks, they really came up short in places like Indiana and Georgia and Florida and Missouri, and certainly in some of these other races. And in Ohio, Mike DeWine is now the governor, and the president was there helping yesterday. So I think that's a very important lesson here as well. Members of the cabinet joined us tonight as well. Not all were able to, some were traveling.
Is the Attorney General here?
I didn't see him, but that doesn't mean he wasn't there. I've been running back and forth.
There was discussion after the midterms. He may leave, he may resign.
We all serve at the pleasure of the president, me included. And no, I have no announcements today. Of course I'm staying. I'm staying. Try as you have. I'm staying. Sorry?
expect some departure
You talked
for coming
about,
weeks, which is typical?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm sure it's typical. I don't know. We haven't talked about that. We've been so focused on here.
Sorry, when you talked about the president's supporters this week, you talked about hope. Can you talk about hope versus the message about the board caravan, which is more kind of a fear-based message?
It's a fear-based message to you, to a lot of Americans. They looked at it and said, well, hold on. People have a right to come in here. In fact, we're the most generous nation in the world when it comes to immigrants. Some 33 million people have immigrated here, and they can do so legally. In fact, you can cross the border through one of the 26 ports of entry. It's those who are going between the ports of entry. And so people are welcome to come here, Mark, legally. But we also have a right to know who's here and why. And there's no question, as somebody who works on the drug crisis here every single day on behalf of the president and the nation, for which I'm enormously grateful, there's a lot of poison coming over the border. We have so much heroin and fentanyl and cocaine pouring over the border. And the president talks about that also. It doesn't get a ton of coverage. But he talks about how we have to have a border. We have to know what's coming in and then who's coming in. So I know that you all talked about fear, the Grover Sesame word of the week, I guess it's been. But there's an awful lot of hope that people see in the economy. I mean, I talk to people, we've talked to union folks are running up to us everywhere and saying, listen, we've never voted this way in our whole lives, but we were skeptical in 2016, but boy, have you delivered. People don't just feel like they have job availability or job security. They feel like they have job mobility, that they can actually find a job closer to home if that fits their family's life, or they can find a job that has better benefits.
The president said that wasn't exciting to talk about.
It is, yes. He talks about it everywhere he goes. And we got you guys to talk about it recently because you were talking about that he wasn't talking about the great economy should have been. So, psych, we got you to talk about the economy. Thank you.
The president is going to speak about the election. Who is the president calling?
I'm not going to talk about who he's calling. He'll tell you in due time.
Can you work with which other family members?
Of course I'll work with Senator Romney. He endorsed him. The president endorsed Senator Romney. So of course he can work with him.
Who else was at the celebration tonight besides the First Lady and the cabinet?
Well, I don't know what's been made public. Yes, family members are there. I don't know if any photos have been released, so I don't want to.
Is he going to hold a traditional news conference tomorrow?
His children were there. I'm not going to talk about that either.
Has he called Ron DeSantis to congratulate him?
I won't talk about who he's talked to tonight, but he has made several calls and received many calls, and basically has been right where he's been the whole time, reminding me a lot of 2016, where he and the vice president sitting right there watching the returns on many different screens, taking calls, receiving information, inputs from staff about what's happening, what we see, what networks are calling what. So there are always some surprises in every election, but I think the surprise here really is that, yet again, Donald J. Trump defies history, defies the trends, bucks the trends, makes trends of his own. We only had 8 Senate seats for the party in power over the last 80 years or so in the midterms, and we have at least 9, 10, and 11 tonight, it looks like. So we'll see. The seats in the West still need to be called, Nevada, Arizona, and the like. But I think he's looking really good, and the president knows he's going to have to work with the Democratic Congress, but they're going to have to work with him. And we'll see who they elect as leaders. It's not lost on me that 30, 40, I lost count, but dozens of Democrats running for the House of Representatives vowed that they would not vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. We'll see if they keep that promise or if they go back to her, who of course was a 2-term Speaker until she lost the speakership and everything else, and they lost most of everything else in 2010.
Is he prepared to work with her?
Certainly he'll work with her. He's tried here. I've seen her here a couple times, a time or two, haven't you?
Can you give us a sense how many calls?
But look, what there's an appetite for in San Francisco is not always an appetite anywhere else in the country. If she thinks that all the U.S. citizens all across this country have an appetite for indictments and impeachments and subpoenas, there are a lot of members, new members, Democratic members, who I suspect will have a different idea, and then some Democratic House members who have survived this midterm election but know that they have to face the voters back home and explain why they voted against a tax cut a year ago that has brought bonuses or raises or both to 8 million Americans, an economic boon, these low unemployment rates among African Americans and Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, women 64-year low. And I know many people here maybe didn't think it was important to women tonight that we have 65-year low unemployment rate among women, but boy, did it matter to them in some of these races.
Do you think you can get a second round of tax cuts passed with the Democratic House?
Yeah, what'd you have to eat?
You think you can get another
Me?
Steak?
Well, it's disappointing, but it's not surprising it happens for the party in power, but it's not the shellacking that President Obama described in 2010 of 63 seats, or President, I'm so old, I remember all these. So President Clinton, after 1994, a contract with America, he said, hey, I'm still relevant. So it may be disappointing, but it's not surprising.
Subpoenas, oversight, all this
Well,
stuff.
that would be disappointing too. I mean, the president said yesterday, they'll do what they want to do and he'll do what he has to do. But so far nothing has stopped the president from moving forward with the agenda for America, and he will continue to fight for that. He thinks there are still more economic gains to make, growth rates to increase, unemployment rates to lower. We know that not everybody is prospering yet, but pretty much everyone, and he's been made very clear there's always more deregulation. He's going back for another foreign trip in 3 days, less than 3 days, and he'll continue to do that as well.
Can you give us the
Last
top
one.
area of bipartisanship that he's going to pursue? Is it
Well, that's really up to the Democrats too, but I think we have to look at infrastructure, immigration, obviously spending, certainly all things economic. We don't want to go backwards with these economic gains, and I think that this country tonight made very clear that the United States Senate will be a firewall to any of the reversals and blowbacks and throwbacks that a Democratic House may want to do, and what has been a very successful tax cut. I mean, I know many people were skeptical, and the critics and naysayers said, oh, the employers will never reinvest in their workforce and their workplaces, but they have. That tax rate going from 35% to 21% has helped spur this huge economic boom. Apple's promised 20,000 new jobs here in the U.S. We're repatriating trillions of dollars of wealth that was legally parked overseas. And we are also, this president's leadership is also, he's making gains around the world. Every time he's told, don't do that, you can't do it, he does it. And the world doesn't fall apart, thank God. Don't pull out of the Paris Accords. Don't keep the promise of 5 or 6 presidents and move that embassy to Jerusalem and recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital the way Israelis do, the way Democrat and Republican presidents have promised to do. He did it. Don't pull out of the Iran deal. Don't sanction Iran. Don't go back. Don't hit back at Assad. And he just don't do the tax cut. He keeps doing it, not just to say, oh, gee, I can do it, but because he believes it's the right thing to do. And there's a great deal of peace and prosperity, and I think tonight, particularly in these statewide races, you saw many of the voters respond in kind. A lot of powerful and otherwise popular incumbents back at home lost tonight in their statewide re-election races. And I think that candidates and campaigns matter, and it's my very polite but firm forewarning to some of the Republican consultants in these races who've probably made a gazillion dollars this year. Congratulations to you. Before you want to blame the president and the White House in your blind quotes, remember that he was out there for many, many folks. Other folks didn't want him to campaign with them. Many of them lost tonight, I would note. And he put the economy in such a great position that anybody with an R after their name who was running was able to talk about that, according to the president. I'm just repeating what the president said here, so don't make those people lose their minds and give them something to do. So he has said that he put the economy in such a great, strong position that people, could run on that as well. And indeed, some of them did. Some refused to run with him, and some of them have lost tonight. But so there are the results. Last one.
Do you think this result can affect his foreign policy?
Do I think
the agenda policy, the foreign agenda policy?
The election results? Absolutely. So he'll have to work. The Democratic House will need to work with him. He'll continue to work with them. But this is a president who just 2.5 days from now, 3 short days from now, is leaving to go on another foreign trip, and he'll continue to do that. He'll continue to go to these multilateral meetings. He'll continue to do bilateral meetings. He'll continue to renegotiate trade deals that he thinks are very unfair to America, American workers, and American interests. And America first does not mean America alone, but it does indeed mean that national security and economic security, border security all go together, and that this president, don't count on him backing down on any of that, because he believes that to protect America as a country, American interests, Americans and American workers, he needs to have a very strong military, a very well-funded military, that we are a sovereign nation in need of physical borders. We have spent so much money over the years helping other countries protect their own borders, and it's high time we did it here. Many voters agree. Thank you all.
Kellyanne, is there a plan to deal with all these investigations, the tax returns and everything else?
The president said yesterday that we wouldn't have to raise any other funds. But if you think that's a priority out of tonight, I'm going to vote that you're not taking appetite for that, except
Wasn't there a pretty big repudiation though in the suburban swing districts, all the immigration rhetoric?
They were talking about investigation.